South of Hudson's Bay, James Bay. And at the southern tip of James Bay, the settlement of Moose Factory. News Magazine salutes Education Week with films of an Indian residential school 500 miles north of Toronto. Principal Eric Barrington dispenses first aid among his many other duties. He heads one of Canada's 69 Indian residential schools, scattered in key locations as far north as the Arctic Circle. They've a total of 11,000 pupils, orphans, convalescents, those who live too far in the wilderness to get to a daily school. They learn not only games and traditions, such as the celebration of St. Valentine's Day, but the mastery of words, which will open to them the whole range of the ordinary Canadian curriculum. For children who live with the midnight sun in their summer holidays, an explanation. They come to school in September, go home for holidays in June. Instead of the isolation and neglect of the past, a free and equal chance for children in urban centers.
Two primary objectives of the residential school system were to remove and isolate children from the influence of their home, families, traditions, and cultures, and to assimilate them into the dominant culture.
And here's a simple fact. Canada has a big issue, a big problem with prejudice. It is all across Canada from coast to coast. It's directed at immigrants and it's directed at Canadians themselves. People from the West Coast feel prejudice towards the East Coast and Central Canada. The same goes from Central Canada. There's a big problem with the French and the English-speaking people of Canada. And the biggest problem has to do with the Aboriginal, the First Nations people of Canada, who were here first. This is their land, and they have been subjugated. They have been treated as worthless people. I mean, they have no rights virtually. And the biggest fallacy out there is that they have it so good. I remember working in construction when one of my co-workers was saying how good the native people have it because they got land given to them and the government gives them housing. They have dental, medical, education. Everything is paid for. They don't even have to pay taxes. Nobody talks about what the natives have lost along the way, about how they lost their culture, their land, their language, their humanity. All that has been lost. It wasn't until June 2008 that the Canadian government first apologized to the native people. But even before apologizing to the native people, the government took an opportunity to thank their inner circle for coming up with the apology. How absurd.
The Government of Canada built an educational system in which very young children were often forcibly removed from their homes, often taken far from their communities. Many were inadequately fed, clothed, and housed. All were deprived of the care and nurturing of their parents, grandparents, and community. Indeed, some sought, as was infamously said, to kill the Indian in the child. The government now recognizes that the consequences of the Indian residential schools policy were profoundly negative, and that this policy has had a lasting and damaging impact on Aboriginal culture, heritage, and language. We now recognize that it was wrong to separate children from rich and vibrant cultures and traditions, that it created a void in many lives and communities, and we apologize for having done this. There is no place in Canada for the attitudes that inspired the Indian residential school system to ever prevail again.
Hi, I'm Zexi. I'm against Bill 94 because the government has no place in women's wardrobes.
My name is Chris, and I'm against Bill 94 because the argument that it liberates women is bullshit. There is no liberation in criminalization of women.
Hi, my name's Chris. I'm against Bill 94 because I think it's wrong for the government to be telling people what they can or cannot wear. And on top of that, trying to deny essential services to women based upon that, I think is terribly wrong.
My name is Muhammad Ali Omir, and I'm against Bill 94.
My name is Rodney DeVerlis, and I'm against Bill 94.
Hi, my name is Danielle, and I'm against Bill 94 because it's sexist.